And he's back. It's good to bring back the one, the only, the UFL. When there's news, the GOAT is going to talk about it, my friends. So let's bring him in. GOAT, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you.
Hey, pretty good. It's been a while, man. We haven't had any big UFL news for a while, but today we got a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can see I'm sporting the champions, as you know, the DC Defenders. Very nice that the UFL has sent us some gifts here. We were really close of doing one of the showcases that was just around the corner from us, but it, of course, did not work out. Hopefully, we can be able to get that a little bit later. I think there were some legal issues that were going on, but we did reach out to Mike, and everything was great, and then we just lost communication there, but hopefully you'll have us back out in the near future. But there is news in the UFL. The floor is yours, my friend. Talk to me.
Well, we got a lot of new branding coming out today. We knew we were getting 3 new teams, but we had a lot of surprises, and there was some new stadiums too that are interesting. There's only 3 teams that were unaffected by the news today. Every other team got either a new brand, a new stadium, a new city name, a new team name. Pretty exciting stuff going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. The 3 teams that have been selected or has entered, I guess, the league here, which will be a total of 8 teams here. One of them being the Orlando. Your thoughts on that? You had mentioned before about cities, but Orlando is one of them.
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise because they had already been there in 2023. Didn't necessarily work out, but the team was also 1-9. So, what do you really expect? This time around, though, seems very promising because of the stadium is the number one. They were playing in Camping World. I think it's like 65,000, and they even just expanded it to like 75,000. Just way too big. But now they're going to be in the MLS stadium in Orlando there. I'm not sure what the team is. Orlando FC.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the new team, of course, in UFL is the Orlando Storm.
Yes.
But yes, it's Atlanta City that is the MLS. Atlanta City, yeah.
So that they'll be playing in their stadium, and they're going away from the Orlando Guardians, which I know a lot of people in New York are probably happy to hear that news because they wanted their XFL team as the Guardians, and they didn't like them playing down in Orlando.
Sure.
And for future perspective, I'm sure UFL would like to get back to New York at some point. So I also really like the name the Storm. I like Orlando Storm. I think that's a cool brand, and I think that's the theme. Whenever they released these new team names at first, I was like, what are we doing here? Because there's no history to any of these team names. And there's actually a lot of history to the other UFL team names, believe it or not. Yeah, even the Renegades, they were an Orlando team, I believe, with the CFL whenever they came down to the United States. Lot of Stallions have been around. But these were all brand new team names. We have if we run through them real quick, the Louisville Kings.
Yep.
The Columbus Aviators and the Orlando Storm are the 3 brand new markets. We have a couple other changes though to go over.
Yeah, absolutely. And my first question here is there any relationship with DraftKings, because the emblem of the Louisville Kings, is there any correlation there that they're DraftKings is now entering, throwing their hat in the ring there, so to speak?
Very much seems like it because the logos and the colors are pretty much exactly the same, and it's the Kings.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I don't know if they're going to get into some legal trouble over that, or that is just really interesting. That's what a lot of people saw when they looked at that. They're like, it's the same as the DraftKings logo. But you know what? We're going to see under the new ownership, the marketing is going to be far superior. Whenever you didn't hear anything about the UFL in the past from other outlets, unless you went out of your way for UFL, it's going to be a whole lot different. We already have, Rapuli's already working with the Pat McAfee show with Barstool Sports. He just posted a picture with Gruden, and we're not sure if he coaches that is going to be massive, and every single team is going to want him. But even just Gruden promoting and supporting the league, this is simple stuff that they should have been working with Barstool on some of these shows before. But it's good to see the league get the marketing in there, and I think that's what a lot of these rebrands are. Some of the names are kind of, the Kings. Is that really one you can get behind? Well, the gear's probably going to be awesome for all these teams. That's what I'm looking forward to. Is I think some of these new teams can put out some really cool gear.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There has been, we talked about the showcase that we were invited briefly, and then, things, come up, and it is what it is. But they had a showcase in Orlando. So you thought there was going to be an Orlando team, that we talked about, one in Atlanta, one in DC, just to name a few cities. And what I've heard, it went very well. But what was really concerning is there was talk before of taking the team out of Birmingham, but it's there. The Stallions stay in Birmingham. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, they bought themselves another year. It's coming with the demand of a lot of pressure to get fans in the stands there this year. And I think, with the new marketing and stuff, they're going to do their best to keep that team there and to get the expectations fell so bad with the attendance to where it's like, oh, we're getting 10K. It's like, that's half of what you need. I think the new expectation is going to be what it always should have been, close to 20K, and the good markets are getting 20K. I mean, this is professional sport. The new stadiums are going to go a long way for that, because we're looking at like 20, 25K on most of these stadiums. So even if you do get like just the same 12K, it's going to be very full. And I think some of these new markets, we've seen novelty goes a very long way with this. That the biggest issue last year was having these stale markets come back in. We had no new markets, nothing to get, excited about as far as advertising the teams and stuff. This is going to be a big deal for Louisville. It's going to be a big deal in Columbus. And I think Orlando, they're really going to put a lot of effort into that to make that a good market as well.
We're joined with the GOAT, who knows only a lot of things, but he definitely specializes in the UFL. So we're glad to have him back. Let's ask another question here while we have him on the air here. Is when you talk about attendance, you don't have that issue when it comes to the St. Louis Battlehawks, and that's something, or even the defenders, the champions. So is that what Birmingham is looking for when it comes to attendance? You mentioned the attendance. Hey, they bought themselves a year, but and also a follow-up question is, it seems like the teams are only in the East Coast. You don't see, we talked about before, possible a team in Seattle or coming back Seattle, but that is not even in the works.
Yeah, they're not. It doesn't seem like they're looking at the West yet. Everything's about cost efficiency right now. Right. And I'm sure they would have loved to have kept Michigan. They would have loved to have kept San Antonio, but these are monstrous stadiums. They cost a ton of money. And I think that they were looking to get like the Vince McMahon crowds for some of these teams, and they didn't even come close to it. So unfortunately, they had to leave the bigger stadiums. That's going to be something to watch for St. Louis. Are they going to be able to stay in the dome? Because they're gradually dropping down. They were still above 20K, which is great, last year, but they were in like the mid 30Ks year before that. I think they set 3 records in a row in that year. Yeah, everything's cost efficiency. Even with Birmingham, I think whenever they looked at these markets, they said, "Look, we're going to have to get rid of most of these big stadiums. Which team are we willing to take a loss on?" And it ended up being, we'll give the Stallions another chance at protective field, see if they can do a little bit better. And that's the team that they're willing to keep things unchanged and maybe lose a couple bucks on, but you keep the dynasty intact.
Is the Houston Gamblers part of that? Hey, look, you got it's like the old Janet Jackson song, what have you done for me lately? You know what I mean? In a sense of, do they get that same treatment that Birmingham has just got? Hey, look, you got a year, you got to figure it out, man.
Yeah, that one's really interesting. I think that whenever they looked at Houston, they said, look, this is a massive population here. Like, there's no reason to not be able to put up some numbers. They are also going to be playing in a new stadium. Their stadium wasn't bad, but it didn't work out in the springtime. It worked for the fall XFL schedule, once it got hot, there is absolutely no shade at TDECU and everything's metal. So they're moving into Shell Stadium, which is the Houston Dynamo, I believe,
Yep.
Stadium. It has nice canopy with the shade. It's all around nicer looking stadium, and the seats are orange. So they had to change it up. Now, it was either go with the Roughnecks and change them to like an orange theme, but it just makes all the sense in the world to bring back the Gamblers. I think they're trying to distance themselves from the last couple years' teams, because the Roughnecks, the stock fell off a cliff once the UFL merger took place. They lost their team to San Antonio, and then they had, but they were the Roughnecks. They had no identity. At least now, they've gone back and forth, but I think they've settled on, the Gamblers here. A lot of people like to bring up that history with Jim Kelly and stuff. That's a cool thing to lean on. It's an interesting one, though. That's one of the most controversial changes, because they didn't necessarily have to change the team name. But whenever it came down to it, they're going to be playing in a new stadium. Might as well give them a new uniform and everything. Try to get that market excited for something different, since anyone who experienced the Roughnecks last year, it wasn't too much to watch, and there was no way going to the game. So, but I you know what? I think they're decently safe. What's going to be interesting, I'm glad you brought that up. All the teams were in the hub. Now, they didn't just play in the hub, but they all practiced and lived in the hub. But that was at Arlington's Choctaw Stadium. Yeah. That team is changing from the Arlington Renegades back to the Dallas Renegades, and they're also going to an MLS stadium. I think it's, Dallas FC Stadium. Yeah. It's in Frisco, Texas. I'm actually not sure. Toyota Stadium.
Yeah, it's Toyota.
Yep. So they're going to be in a new stadium, and we know that all the teams were practicing and meeting near the Choctaw Stadium. So that's going to be interesting. Are they going to move away from the hub? And if I think they're going to keep the hub, and that's another reason why they want to keep two teams in Texas for tax purposes, travel purposes, all that. Just makes it easier.
You had mentioned, of course, these different stadiums. For example, Toyota Stadium, which is the home of Dallas FC. For example, the champions, the defenders who play at Audi Field, that is, of course, the home of DC United. And just name just a few. Do you think that that's the way to go? Except going to these bigger stadiums, that they should shift over to now, hey, these soccer arenas?
Absolutely. It's just, I like using the figure of 12,000, because that's a decent amount to show up. Whenever, if 12,000 people show up for it, it's unfair for people to say nobody's going, especially like post-COVID. It's hard to get these, 21-year-old kids out of the house. People that used to be going to a lot of events and stuff. Like, if it's in a 20K arena, then you're mostly full, and it's a better viewing experience. The field's like right there. There's not a bad seat in the house. I thought DC was like the place to go catch a game just because of that stadium setup. And now you're telling me that most of the teams are going to have that same arrangement, same atmosphere. I think it's really good for the league, really good for the viewing it in person and on TV. It's going to look good, because if there's people in the stands, that just looks so much better on TV. There's no doubt about it. And, 10,000 just, it looks so small in a 60,000 arena. It ends up looking like there's 100 people there optically, and it's just going to look a whole lot more full. And I think it's a great choice.
Keep in mind that MLS will have that season going on. They start in February, probably middle February towards the end of February, and they go on all the way through November. Now, of course, there's some breaks that they have, either it be, a League Cup or what have you, because they're doing that with different leagues like Liga MX. But that being said, of course, you're looking at where they're going to obviously share the arena, where teams are going to, if for an example, DC United is playing, they usually play on Saturdays, and most of the games are Saturday. But this is what I like about the UFL, is because they play in Fridays as well, Friday and Sundays. A game Friday, a game Saturday, a game Sunday. But that being said, I mean, that's something I think they're going to work with the arenas, because that's almost a huge turnaround. Not as bad as switching it from like basketball to hockey, and then you just switch it like that. No, but if you're talking about a Jerry's World, I'm just using that as an example. You have the Final Four, but then you're using that, for maybe a Super Bowl. I know it's different time, but do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. And you know what? You make a great point, because had DC won the division last year, the game would have still been played in St. Louis. And we saw with Michigan. Well, Michigan's a different story because I was NFL, but there's always going to be, I guess, where the UFL isn't going to get the priority over, some of these events that come in. We've seen even the truck rallies and stuff like that, where they're going to sell these out. They're not given priority. And a lot of times we talked about before the down payments that you have to pay for the playoff games. And sometimes it's really tough for a league that's watching its budget to put a down payment down, just lose that money straight up for a team that's not going to make the playoffs. So
sure.
They were unwilling to do it. But yeah, that's going to be a huge hurdle for them now that, I think it's six or five of the teams are going to be in MLS stadiums and have to deal with that. The MLS teams, and they're obviously the MLS teams are going to get priority. And if Team USA or women's soccer, plays, they're going to get priority too. So they're going to have to get creative with the scheduling. But in all reality, it shouldn't really be that hard if you're organized and rolling on this. I don't know why there were so many issues in the past. The playoffs might always be an issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like I said, the example of basketball and hockey. You're taking out the wood floor, you're putting on the ice, so to speak, when it comes to, for example, the Washington Capitals, just to use as an example. We bring in our friend Shane Mack is here in studio now. Shano, we are 6 months away from the UFL beginning season, and they already announced a few of the games for week one. So for week one, they've got Friday night, and this is another thing. You're talking about the TV coverage, Fox, ESPN, ABC. Do they go expand more of a studio? So if you look at the WNBA with Ion, etc., they have like more of a studio crew. Will that be more of an idea to do for the UFL?
100%. That is my number one thing. If they change nothing else going into the season, you need to have like that marquee pregame. And I would say that Fox Friday night's perfect.
Yep.
To catch everybody up with the schedule, catch everybody up with the highlights, promote players, actually talk about the league. I mean, that's your moment. The ESPN Sports Center and them, they're not going to get out of their way to talk, about it. But that's your moment. And they didn't even have it. They didn't even have a pregame, that's your chance to get them Barstool guys in there, whoever, and get some, former players, whoever, Dalbo Swinney, some of them sideline interviews they were doing would be so much better just to throw into an organized pregame, help promote the league.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. You get at least a half hour, even if it's just a half hour before each game.
Yeah.
Like a half hour pregame will do a lot of good for him. And just like you
said,
it'll get you like I watch UFL games. I mainly watch Defenders games though. So I'm not always up to date with what's going on in Orlando now. Right. So it'd be good to hear about that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like their chance to say hey, this is when the games are, who's playing, why you should care about it. And the other thing is you retain that audience. It was literally sitcoms. Nobody's going to tune into a sitcom and then be like, oh, I'm going to come back for the UFL, but if you catch someone on a pregame, nothing else is on, there's sports, hey, I'll watch this pregame, and then you keep it on and then you retain those fans for the hour, half an hour leading up to the game. Whereas, I am not surprised one bit that the Fox Friday night numbers were terrible last year because it's, you have a sitcom leading into it.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody knows it's on.
So the games, of course, will start on Friday night, which will be, of course, Houston traveling to the new team, the Orlando Storm. That'll be Friday.
That's not official.
Oh, that's not official. Okay.
Those are just my picks. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they're going to start on Friday. Last year they didn't kick in Friday until week 3 randomly.
Right.
Who knows? I could see them starting everything on a Saturday and then doing Friday week 2, or kick it off on a Friday. I think they like to kick it off on the weekend though. Right. I'm not sure how they'll handle that, to be honest.
Do you feel that it's the timing you don't want to go against a monster like March Madness. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that they learned before in the past, because when you're taking on, it's like going up against the Shield, the NFL. That's like the mother of all things. You know what I mean? You don't want to go one-on-one with that. And that's why I always suggest like NBA should go like Christmas on and shorten the season. But that's my opinion. So, the major sports here, of course, is baseball, football, hockey, and the NBA. So it's that balance of, hey, look, UFL should start in April because, it's right after, March Madness, but they wait a couple weeks. I think you lose interest on that. And the second thing, you want to end it before these teams. You saw a lot of the players from UFL this past season are now in the NFL. So I think it's the timing of it, how they're going to do it. I don't think it should be like a Leagues Cup or anything like that, like hockey does or anything like that. No, but there's got to be something to not only the pregame show, but also to promote the brand a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree big time. March Madness is really one of the toughest things for them to deal with, because I think ideally you just start this thing off in February after the Super Bowl. But then the issue is, once March Madness starts, everybody loses track.
Right.
They try to push it afterward, and I do like that, but they're always competing against something, because then they're going against NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs. There's always going to be competition, and I think you just have to go with, hey, whoever the football fans are going to watch football. But they've gotten lucky a lot of times with there being sweeps in an NBA series or NHL series where they don't have competition, but it's always dumb luck,
Right.
And it's a shame, because like you said, they can't really push it back, because one of the main ingredients is these guys go to the NFL. That's where you're getting your talent. That's what you're selling to the players. Like, you can get in the NFL. So it would be nice to push it back like 2 more weeks and just escape, more of the NBA playoffs and stuff, and just have more of that head to head with the MLB. But they really can't. And with it getting hotter in the summertime too, a lot of these outdoor venues in the South also isn't a good recipe there either. So I think they're either stuck where they are, or they're going to move it back to February. I know they did do great numbers in February, but it's tough to say. There's reasons to like both start times. Where they're starting now, though, what's interesting is they're trying to start it around like the Final Four of March Madness. That way, most of the teams are out. People's brackets are busted. It's that first couple of weeks that are a nightmare, because everybody has a bracket. Everybody is involved. There's 1,000 games. Whenever it gets down to 4, you can kind of work around them. And I think they were able to avoid it for the most part. It still hurts whenever you have your opening kickoff for like a league and there's, everybody's watching the Final Four. But at the same time, most of them, 3 out of the 4 games were clear of it last year. But that's about it on that.
I think something else that could help the UFL too. I feel like the first week or 2 of games are not the cleanest of plays. I think having an extra preseason game or something like that would be beneficial to the league too. Just to help clean up some of that stuff. So that way, when someone's tuning in for the week 1 game, that they're watching a little bit more of a polished product type deal. And you see that in the NFL now. The NFL plays no preseason games. Nobody plays their starters anymore, right? And then the league struggles. Some teams, there's always upsets those first couple weeks because, I'm just picking somebody at random, but the Commanders, for say, the Skins, the Washington Skins there. They didn't play anybody when Jaden Daniels played 1 series, right? And he did not look the same that week 1 or week 2. So I think that's something that could help them, is have a little bit more practice time preseason to have the league kick off with a more polished look, professionally, by you're setting up.
Yeah, definitely. What we're looking at now is guys signing and showing up a month before the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
And a week before the season is the final cuts. And they get 1 scrimmage that's off TV. So, yeah, I agree big time that it would at least add 1 preseason game. Have them all play in the hub. You can have your 1 scrimmage off screen, and that be your warm-up game. But then add at least 1 official preseason game, and have it on YouTube or something. Get some free advertising out of it where you're catching the fan that, is going to tune in on a different platform that doesn't have, ESPN Plus or Fox or, access to that stuff. At least and you have that excuse too, right? It's like, oh, these quarterbacks are, not playing great, but it's a preseason game,
Mhm.
So it has the same effect. Like we said, that you have to look at this through a casual fan's eyes. They're not like counting down the days to UFL kickoff. They're focused on their March Madness. They're going to come across this stuff, So for them, it's just better to get that branding, and then you can advertise, hey, our official kickoff is next week too. It's really helps promote the season whenever you can have a preseason like that. And the quarterback battles, yeah, it's ridiculous. Some of these teams do not know who their quarterback is until like week 3 or 4. They go into week 1 splitting snaps, at quarterback, and it just you really can't be doing that and run an organized offense. But it's very common because there's no preseason.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I just think it would help them out so much. Like you said, have the scrimmage off TV, and having on YouTube, I think is a great idea. The preseason. You should reach out to the marketing team there or something.
We're trying to get a job. They wouldn't hire me, so whatever.
Pitch it to them, because I think that's a great idea. Because I think that's what they really need. Is because like I've known a lot of people, some friends that I have, and they're like, he's like, I tuned in. I was like, man, it's just not the same. The play's not good. And I'm like, I'll just like give it some time, man. It's a good league. It just the first week is just it is rough to watch sometimes.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes people don't realize that they don't like football as much as they think. Whenever you don't have the fantasy football going and stuff like that, because we see like a 14-3 NFL game. It's not uncommon. I think it's tough to really get all that excitement out there, especially like this is not Arena League defenses. That's what makes it tough on these defenses. A lot of these guys are have NFL experience. These are pretty badass, front sevens coming after you, and pretty tight coverage to deal with. As a quarterback, I mean, obviously it's not comparable to the NFL, but it's still really tough, to deal with a really good defense like that and not having, a 4-3 guy to throw to, not having the weapons on offense to deal with that, especially offensive line. Offensive line was greatly improved last year, though. I think we had 3 guys go to the NFL in some capacity, like actually make practice squad or team, which is a pretty big deal, because that was like the one major lacking position group that people weren't even looking at. But yeah, I think we had at least 2 make a team. A lot of improvement there. Just in general, the play, the players, more and more people are taking it serious. Whenever you're going to do this, is going to be year 5 now, so this isn't like this. They're beat the stigma of this is only going to be around for a half a season, or we're going to get left hanging somewhere. Like, people are very confident that they're going to get their paycheck and play through the season and potentially get an NFL camp invite.
Sure. Another idea that I have in addition to this YouTube, the college had these spring games, but there's always a bye in between the championship games in the NFL and the Super Bowl. So nobody watches the Pro Bowl. Let's really be honest. Maybe do something to kind of introduce a UFL, but that would risk, hey, you're going to start it again. So that's why I'm saying somewhat like a spring game. Maybe invite UFL. They've got 9 teams. So I don't know. I know the rules are different in Canadian football, but I'm just spitballing here. There's got to be a way to just say, hey, look, we're showing some type of football, but it's not, the NFL.
It's definitely interesting. I'm sure everybody would love to see the CFL winner versus the UFL winner.
Right.
But it is tough that it's really early in UFL's preseason, and it would be, I think, like really shortly after the CFL season.
Right.
And like I said, there's different rule sets. I know CFL's making a couple changes. They're trying to become, I think, over time, roll it out that they're more like American football rules. But I know they're at least moving their field goal post to the back of the end zone, which I think is about 40 years overdue. Like at this point, that's just like a huge liability having a metal pool in the middle of the scoring end zone there. But I'm glad they're doing that. But yeah, it would be nice to have like that, like community shield type game there, you know, and that could be like a preseason game. We were just
Right.
talking about that. That could be like their Hall of Fame game.
Yeah.
Put it in Canton or something like that. Put it like a special location, and play a game. Maybe I'm not even sure what they could do. Division winners. Oh, speaking of, they're changing the format. I don't know if there's divisions or not, but they're getting rid of divisions mattering for playoffs. Top 4 teams are in, which is awesome.
Sure.
Whenever you have 8 teams, that was that was a little bit unfair sometimes there. I think even last year it should have been. I think it actually worked out last year, but it was looking like it at one point where the Renegades and the 3 XFL teams were in, and then the Michigan caught fire there.
Right. Before we let you go, you mentioned something about Ohio, which that was your dream of having a UFL expansion there, team there. Are you a little disappointed that they haven't done that yet?
No, they did get a team.
Oh,
they got the Columbus Aviators.
Oh, they got the Columbus Aviators. Okay, but are they playing
so I'm really excited about it. I'm definitely going to go to a game this year. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not like the Ohio Bulldogs. I thought that was such a classic one to go with and cool theme. But yeah, the Aviators should be pretty interesting. They're going to be playing at the historic Crew Stadium, which I guess is the old Columbus Crew Stadium, but it's still really nice. They just have like a brand new stadium that they're playing in. But the historic
so they're not playing at lower.com field.
Not
now. Okay.
Yeah, I do not think so. I think they're playing at the old one.
Okay.
And it's still pretty nice. It's not like ancient. I think, it's just but it's owned by Jimmy Haslam, the former Browns owner. So he wanted to get a football tenant in there. I think he's gonna help out with the stadium, promoting the team and stuff. And I really hope that team loads up on Ohio State players, former Ohio State players. It should be pretty cool. But now what's interesting is that the stadium seats, if they're going to change them or not, and the stadium seats for a lot of these new teams don't make a ton of sense. We have the Orlando one. It looks like they're going to have some type of like purple and orange or orange and purple uniform. So those will go with the purple seats fine. But Columbus is black and gold seats. And the logo looks like it's like baby blue, dark blue, and red. But they posted a picture of the stadium and they like edited the seats and made them blue. So we're wondering if maybe they are going to change the color of the seats there. I think it was like mostly black seats and there was like a couple rows of yellow seats. So maybe they'll just throw a couple bucks out there, change them over to blue. Since that's what is actually, I really like that because this is like, there's nothing else that plays there. I think there's like Columbus's like B squad plays there and they have like concerts. So this is like the official home stadium for a UFL team, which pretty cool there in Columbus.
Yeah, it's either going to be blue for a reason or they're doing season 4 of Ted Lasso. So we just need to figure that out. What's going on there? You can catch, of course, the GOAT here at Pro Catch YT. That's his X handle. GOAT, it's always a pleasure seeing you, my friend. We'll catch up soon, of course, but this is a great news, great thing for the league in the UFL. You bring up some amazing ideas that can help the league. Your final thoughts, sir?
Well, at first I was a little bit, didn't know what to think about these team names, but they've all like really grown on me. I think you can really market these. They're kind of cool like brands. I think if I lived in like Louisville, the Kings would be like a cool brand. I'd want to get their gear and, see what's up with that. Or Orlando Storm is probably my favorite. I think that's pretty awesome. And even the Columbus Aviators, I'm not like that big on the name, but like, I think their uniforms are going to be pretty awesome. I'm thinking like a Houston Oilers, like baby blue with the red logo. Yeah. Like I'm thinking Rapoli, I think the branding's going to be on point with some of this stuff. He really knows what he's doing and how to make that project like cool. That's what it needs. It needs some swagger. And I think we got it with these moves.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, Catch, of course, you can send his questions his way. He knows it. That's ProCatch YT. That's his X handle there. For Shane O'Mac, I'm Joe the Fan from Just Win Bets Baby. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.